Hello everyone, Joel here from Golf Monthly, and in this video we're taking a look at the best fairway woods on the market in 2020. Now I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who've had a fairway wood in the bag for a number of years. It's your old faithful, but maybe this year is the perfect opportunity to benefit from modern technology, and I'm confident if you go for a custom fitting process, you will get more distance, more forgiveness and more versatility from your fairway wood. And we've listened to you from last year. We've included even more models in this fairway wood test. It's the biggest one we've ever done here at Golf Monthly, and we're going to break it down into various different categories. So we're looking at the looks, the feel and sound, the turf interaction, the ball flight, of course the all-important performance from the GC Quad launch monitor, and I'm going to give you an overall verdict at the end where I pick my top 3. So hopefully you'll agree this is the best fairway wood test we've ever done. It's going to really steer you into the best model for your game, and the models we're going to include in this video are the Cobra King Speed Zone range, the Callaway Maverick and Maverick Sub-Zero. We've got the Mizuno ST200, Ping G410, we've got the TaylorMade Sim and Sim Max models, and the Titleist TS3. So I think it's about time we got this video underway, starting with the looks. Okay, so the looks is arguably one of the most important categories with a fairway wood, because hitting one off the deck is quite an intimidating experience. You can see from the 10 different models I've got in front of me, there is a whole host of different visuals on show, and what I like the look of might be different to what you like the look of. You know, you're starting from the very traditional end, you've got your Titleist TS2 and TS3, all the way up to the TaylorMade Sim models, which definitely have a lot going on visually. And I think if I had to pick my favourite, it would definitely be more towards this kind of modern technology looking fairway wood. You know, for me the Sim and the Sim Max are the most easy to align with that kind of chalk white strip there behind the face. Sets up really nicely behind the ball and just gives you a bit more alignment assistance. And there are some others that give alignment assistance through full-faced groove. So the Titleist TS3 does that, the Callaway Maverick Sub-Zero does that. And I think you just need to really think about what you like the look of in terms of alignment, but also what's going to inspire the most confidence for you. Because actually I prefer a more compact looking fairway wood, because I feel like I'm going to get that up in the air a little bit more easily, whereas if it's a bit more stretched out, I feel like I'm going to hit that lower. That might be a bit different for you, so try a few different ones down behind the ball. There's a whole host of different sizes. You've got the Cobra Speed Zone Tour is unquestionably the smallest one, and then you're moving all the way up into models like the TaylorMade Sim Max and the Ping are probably the largest ones. So pick a profile size and a face height that's going to suit your game. Remember, a taller face is going to be more beneficial for tee shots, whereas a shallower face is going to be more beneficial if you're hitting it mostly off the deck. So also think about where you're going to use the fairway wood, the situations you're going to be employing it on the course. Factor all that in and pick one that you like the look of the best. If I had to pick my favourite, it probably would be the TaylorMade Sim. Right, so on to the all-important performance from the launch monitor. We tested these fairway woods indoors, off the deck on the GC Quad launch monitor from Foresight using Titleist Pro V1X golf balls, and they were all in the kind of standard stiff shaft offerings, and they were all in 15 degrees of loft, except the Ping G410 and the Cobra King Speed Zone, which were 14.5. We weren't able to set those at 15. So hopefully you'll agree it's a pretty fair test. We weren't custom fitted for these clubs, by the way, by any means. So these are kind of just stock offerings in 15 degrees. I'm obviously not going to talk through all the data because that would take about 20 minutes. I'm going to flash it all up on the screen now. You can pause it, take a look at the breakdown of the various different numbers. I'm just going to pick out some of the key highlights that we've experienced from these fairway woods. So I think first of all, looking at the club like the TaylorMade Sim, this was a standout model for me in terms of it giving me the most amount of club speed, the most amount of ball speed and the highest launch and ball flight. You can see the rest of the numbers are actually pretty similar in terms of ball speed and carry distance, all hovering around that 250 mark, but the Sim definitely stood out in terms of it got a peak height of 38 yards, which is incredible. Actually the only one that went higher than that was the TaylorMade Sim Max, which is a club I actually really struggled with testing it indoors. You see the numbers are actually okay. I really struggled to hit that consistently well, which was surprising because I thought it'd be a club I got on with the most. Some other standout performers in terms of ball speed, you're looking at the Mizuno ST200, which is actually one of the smaller models, giving me average carries of 253, which is really, really impressive. And you've also got the Cobra King Speed Zone. That model was pretty good. That high spin is really hurting me in terms of translating it into overall carry distance. But then you switch down into the tour version and you're getting nearly 700 RPM less spin with that version. So definitely thinking about which model is going to suit your game, you can make a big difference there. And then the Maverick Sub-Zero give me really good ball speed. You can see actually the longest fairwood on test was the Cobra King Big Tour, but remember this is a much larger model. It's a bit more driver-like in its design, so you'd kind of expect that. It's not really a traditional fairwood in terms of size. Dispersion I would take with a pinch of salt, but definitely the Ping G410 Plus was arguably one of the most easy to control in terms of direction. Felt like it was very forgiving on those off-centre hits. Callaway Maverick also, TaylorMade Sim and Sim Max also very forgiving. So much of a muchness in terms of the numbers. They're all pretty similar. Some standout models that we've talked about, but I think it's about time we took them out onto the golf course and hit more shots to really assess how they play in a real world environment. Okay, so in addition to our indoor testing, another big part of our fairway test is hitting balls on a range, on grass, to really assess things like turf interaction and ball flight, two very important performance characteristics of fairways that people look for. And there's been a few standout performers and maybe some other clubs that didn't quite perform as well for me personally. In terms of turf interaction, unsurprisingly, the club that was kind of ahead of everyone else was the Cobra King Speed Zone, with those baffler rails continuing to improve turf interaction. Just feel like you get a bit more resistance with the ground. Just feels like there's less propensity for the club to dig, especially when the ball is sitting down a bit. So I'm going to hit a shot here just to kind of demonstrate for you kind of what I really like about how this club kind of pops the ball up from the deck. So you actually hit that a little bit heavy, but you can see the ball flight was still nice and high, still got good distance. You're losing less speed on those slightly heavy contacts with the Cobra. Some clubs that I really struggled with actually off the deck were things like the TaylorMade Sim Max. For some reason I just cannot get on with that club, which I was really surprised about. If you're looking for a club that's really going to give you that higher ball flight, that's going to give you the stopping power you need into long par 4s and par 5s, there were a couple of standout performers actually in that area. The first being the Ping G410, then you've also got the TaylorMade Sim fairwood. That was surprising, I'm going to hit one for you now actually, how of a higher ball flight I was getting with this club. It was noticeable, it was going 3 to 4 yards higher than the other models on test. And obviously the turf interaction was good with the ground as well. It just felt like it was easy to pick the ball cleanly and also get good distance. You can see there, you can see it on the camera, you probably can't, but it's, you know, judging from the clouds, it's a noticeably higher ball flight with this TaylorMade Sim, Ping G410, and also the Callaway Maverick. So those are the three I would really consider when looking for a fairway that's going to give you a higher ball flight, which essentially makes it a bit more versatile. It means you can use them in different scenarios out on the golf course. But if you are using it mostly off the deck, the two Cobra King Speed Zone models, I would say, are leaps and bounds ahead of all the others. They all have pretty good turf interaction, to be honest with you. They all get the ball up pretty easily, but the Cobra just stood out in terms of that turf interaction. Right, so on to the final verdict, and I said earlier on I'm going to pick my top 3 fairwoods, and I'm going to do that. And I think you'll agree from the data we've looked at and the other areas of performance, obviously there's not much between all the models on test, and there are some variations that will suit some players over others. But for me personally, having tested them thoroughly on the launch monitor and here outdoors at Bishopsgate in a variety of situations, I've come to my conclusion, and my top 3 are, starting with place number 3, it's going to be the Mizuno ST200. I really love the feel of this club, and it was definitely one of the fastest models on test. You've got adjustable loft as well, so you can tweak it to suit your needs in terms of the ball flight you're looking for, and just give me a nice combination of feel, distance, forgiveness, and some pretty pleasing looks down behind the ball as well. So definitely one of the more impressive models on test. Number 2 is the TaylorMade Sim. Definitely one of the easiest to align. I love the look of it. It feels really solid, a nice muted, quiet sound, but it feels really powerful as well. Gives me really good distance and a much higher ball flight than the others. It was noticeable actually how much higher it was, which is going to help me into par 5. So I do use fairwoods mostly off the deck, to be honest with you. So that extra stopping power from the Sim is really going to help me out. The only problem being that it is very expensive. It's £369 I think, this fairway wood, so that is going to be a stumbling block for a lot of golfers, but price aside, this was one of the most impressive options. But my favourite overall fairway wood of 2020 is the Callaway Maverick Sub-Zero. So this was in the forgiving setting, and it was interesting that even with that heavier weight back, I was still getting some pretty low spin, really fast ball speeds, and for me it gave me the best playability out on the golf course, on the range. It was a nice combination of distance and also being able to control the face and giving me good forgiveness. I guess the only stumbling block is that it is a fixed hosel, so you don't have the ability to tweak the loft if you want to, but you can obviously switch those weights around to adjust the performance. If you want lower spin, you can move that heavier weight at the front, and that will knock down the forgiveness a little bit as well. But for me, I love the look of this club. It's a nice compact looking fairway down behind the ball, but it does have those full face grooves to help with alignment. It's a nice combination. I like the slimline look. It feels like I'm going to be able to hit this off the deck really easily, and the thing that stood out the most, I would say, is the feel of it. It just feels incredibly solid and powerful, probably the standout model actually in terms of that category. And we factor everything else in, those are the reasons why it was my favourite fairway wood on test in 2020. So hopefully you guys, you enjoyed that video and it's given you an idea about what the performance of all these models is all about. Obviously I would encourage you to try as many as you can, but for me this was the standout model, so if you're going to test one, I would recommend testing the Callaway Maverick range out. Click the like button if you like what you're watching, and do comment on the video down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we did this test. But for now, from Bishopsgate Golf Club here in Orlando, Florida, it's goodbye from me. We'll see you next time.